Hi, it's Michael in frozen Toronto. What is the source of life? Oh, and by the way, if you wonder why people in Canada generally live longer than in most other places in the world, it's because the winters are really cold here and meat lasts longer in the freezer. But anyway, what is the source of life? We will look at this logically, no special secrets, no special intelligence is needed, just pure observation and logic. When it comes to the subject of the life, the source of life, 99% of people in this world fall into two camps. The first camp is people don't believe in any kind of source of life, in God, in higher power. They are so-called materialists. They believe that the universe has evolved from some big bang, from some basic elements. Then the second camp is people who believe in God, people who believe in a higher power, and that the universe is created by God. And then there is actually a third group of people, very few of them, and they hold a different information or knowledge or understanding, whatever it can be labeled as, and that will be mentioned later on. So let's look at the first group of people, those who don't believe in any form of higher power, any form of God, so-called materialists. They believe that the universe has somehow evolved, arisen out of basic chemical, physical elements. Now, we will look at this purely logically, as already mentioned. So, one thing needs to be first established is the universe is, it seems to us, what is infinitely complex. Quantum physics is uncovering more and more complexity, more and more so-called mysteries. And the universe obviously contains not only inorganic matter, but also organic stuff. And even beyond that, it contains abstract things like love, lovingness, intelligence, compassion, understanding, all these abstract things. So the materialists, non-believers in God, they hold that all this has evolved from some big bang, from some meeting of basic physical and chemical elements. Is that possible? Let's look at it just purely logically. It's obvious, it's plainly obvious that the higher evolved cannot arise from the lower evolved. If it's turned around, the lower evolved cannot create the higher evolved. It's impossible. It's impossible. Pure logic. So, that out of basic chemical and physical elements of some Big Bang or whatever it might have been, evolves all this complexity, all this intelligence, all life. It's obviously an utter nonsense. So let's look at the second group of people, the believers who believe in God, pretty much all the religionists and so on. So they believe, religions believe, at least most religions, that there is God somewhere in heaven, or whatever it may be called. English labels it in heaven, or in some dimension, on some plane, that is the creator of life and creator of the universe. Now, that has some elements of more likelihood of being true, as it holds that there is a higher intelligence, there is an ultimate power that created the universe. The higher can create the lower. The higher evolved can create the lower evolved. It is possible, plainly, obviously, not vice versa. So that part is believable. However, the problem with this is that if God is somewhere in a different dimension, on a different plane, in heavens, and is not, then he or it is not somewhere else. It's there, it's not here. This would mean God is limited. It would mean a limitation, and limited God would not be able to create existence, universe that is lasting. It's impossible. If we observe the universe, we can derive, we can discern certain aspects of it, certain principles. One is, it's obvious, overall, the universe existence is in perfect balance. Overall, the universe existence is in perfect balance. Obviously, if it wouldn't be, it would self-destruct, and it's been around a few years, and it's obvious that it will be around a few more years. Okay, so first, the universe is in perfect balance overall. Second, whatever the source of life is, it has to be unlimited, infinite, and it has to be everywhere. It has to be omnipresent. It has to be. If it would be somewhere and wouldn't be somewhere else, then not only it would create duality, it would create, well, it would create a limitation, and a limited source would not be able to create or be a source of life to an unlimited existence, unlimited universe. Also, if it would be limited by duality, it is there and it is not here, then there would have to be something else outside of it, or besides it. And if there would be something else besides this source, then it couldn't be the source, then there would be a source to the source, and there would be limitations, and the universe would not be able to be in perfect balance, in perfect harmony, and it would self-destruct. So, out of pure logic and observation, we can tell that the source of life has to be infinite, has to be everywhere, omnipresent, and also it has to contain all the aspects that the universe has, so intelligence and love, lovingness, and not just any intelligence and any lovingness, the ultimate, the absolute intelligence and absolute lovingness. It has to be so, otherwise, again, if it would not be the ultimate, the absolute, it would be limited, it would be imperfect, and thus the universe would be imperfect, and thus it would self-destruct. Okay? So, the idea of God there and God here is nonsense. And also on top of that, if God is there in some heaven, some dimension, and is not here, how do you live? What's the source of your life energy? It's not just the potatoes and beef you're eating, or whatever you may be eating. That's plainly obvious. The source of your life energy has to be in you, cannot be outside of you. And do you have some kind of a battery or a wind-up spring inside of you that God winds up at the beginning of your life, and you just go like a toy throughout your life, and then when the battery runs out, you just flop dead? That's nonsense, right? And also the law of preservation of energy, that energy cannot be destroyed, but only changes forms, right? So this idea of go there, but not here is also nonsense. And then there is, so this takes care of 99% of people, believers and non-believers. They are all believers, as has been revealed. Even non-believers are believers, as Dr. David Hawkins has mentioned. But anyway, then there is a third group of people, or a third school of information could be said, and it says that the source of life is not a who, it's not an entity, it is a condition, could be said, or a presence. It is presence. It is beyond all that is manifested. It has to be beyond all that is manifested. Otherwise, it could not create the manifested. That's obvious. So this presence, this condition, has to be the unmanifest, out of which the manifest arises, as Dr. David Hawkins says. Again, if it would be manifested, if it would be something, then something would have to create it, then it would be limited, and then it could not create unlimited universe. So the basic kind of condition of the source of life is that it is the unmanifest, that is everywhere, that is omnipresent, and that its aspects are unlimited, absolute love and intelligence and other things. And so this source of life is in everything and everyone. It's in you, it is you, and as we are told, in truth, you are it, not you as the body that you see in the mirror and the mind that is constantly busy, but the presence that is beyond all that, and that is observing it. You're observing it, right? You are aware of your thoughts, you are aware of your actions, you are aware of what's going on, and as has been said, you are aware of if your sleep was good or not, and all this stuff. So, as Dr. David Hawkins says, the capacity for this awareness arises out of the unmanifest, out of this condition or this presence, which is beyond all descriptions, and which is the true you. So here the mind automatically snaps into the question, okay, so if the ultimate love and ultimate intelligence, the ultimate source, the unmanifest, is all that, how about evil? How about all the wars and rapes and tortures and all that stuff? How can it come out of perfect source? And the source has to be perfect, otherwise the universe could not be perfect, and imperfect universe would self-destruct. Again, it has to be perfect. And the answer to that, as we are told by established, verified spiritual texts, enlightened people and so on, is that, and it is also obvious logically, is that all the so-called evil is allowed to exist because It is as a learning lesson, as a lesson for spiritual evolvement. If there would be only ultimate lovingness and ultimate compassion, ultimate understanding, ultimate knowledge in the universe, which there is, but if that would be the only thing, then spiritual evolvement would be impossible. Everything would be at the highest state and nothing could evolve, nothing could do anything. It would be just at the highest possible level. So in order for spiritual evolution to be there, there has to be a contrast, and the so-called evil creates the contrast. Now, inside of you is the capacity to choose between the so-called evil and between the so-called good, or the loving. So it's up to you. What do you choose? What do you align with? What do you choose to represent, to channel? It's up to you. The ultimate presence, the source, what people call God, label God, is inside of you, and it's up to your individual spiritual will to decide if you want to channel that or if you want to do something else, channel something else. So that's it for this talk. If there are any questions and comments, they can be left below the video. Wishing you a healthy and joyful life. Michael out.